What's your fake scenario that will never happen, but I like to imagine it anyway, so that I can fall asleep? I use a fan for white noise, so sometimes I pretend the sound is the humming of a spaceship, and I'm sleeping in a little bed next to a big window looking out into space. That's neat. I have used this technique for years. I win the Powerball and collect the money anonymously. I pay off all my family's mortgages, buy them luxury cars that they find parked in their driveways, establish giant scholarships at my high school and college, buy houses for the families I have mentored over the years, give huge donations to my favorite non-profits, and keep wishing up fun and wonderful surprises on and on till I can sleep. You can't win if you don't play. Night. I'm living in an alpine cabin above the snow line, just me and a dog. Each day I cut firewood. Each night I spend the evening watching the fire and drinking black coffee while the dog snores. I was having such a pleasant time in your fantasy until I thought about trying to fall asleep in the freezing cold after a night of drinking black coffee by the fire. Now, the bedroom's upstairs where the heat collects, and there's an extra thick duvet. And a dog. I time travel to 1973 and try to explain the internet to people. Sometimes I like to think about bringing someone from 1950 or 1960 to today, explaining history, technology, etc. Edit. I really need to specify that I'm talking about time travel from then to now, or at least Rip Van Winkle style hibernation. Not just old people. Sometimes I imagine setting up a movie theater in the Middle Ages and showing the people of that era Star Wars episodes 1 to 6. Adventures of Space Cowboy continues. Later Space Cowboy. I imagine things I wish I said, not like arguments that I win. I'm just kinda introverted, and I don't say a lot of things that would greatly add to a conversation. I used to be like this, but slowly and piece by piece I started to say the things I wanted to and now usually say it all. Start small and learn what works and build on that. Everything can be learned. Quitting my job with no notice. I did that once. It was every bit as great as you imagine it. I had some money saved up and had a small side business I was working on. My regular job totally sucked and was going downhill fast. I was due to work a 4 p.m-12 shift. I was out golfing, and after the first 9 I would have to leave to get ready for work. I started to pack up to leave, but noticed it was a beautiful sunny day, not too hot. I was out having fun with my friends, and realized you only get so many of these days in your life. So I picked up my phone, quit my job, lit up a joint, and played 27 more holes of golf instead of going to work. This was in May and I decided to just not work that summer. I had burned through my savings by September, but it was worth it. This was 17 years ago and honestly it was probably the best summer of my life. I regret nothing. Holy duck, that sounds glorious. What I would do on a deserted island, like my survival plan. That's my retirement plan. Finding my soulmate and falling in love. Same. But he's also from New Zealand and will take me to the promised land. Seeing my grandfather again. I dream about him a lot because he was the best friend I'll ever have and I really ducking miss him. It's been a long time now since he passed away and I'm starting to forget things about him and it hurts my heart so much. Maybe take the time to get a journal and write down every single thing you remember about him, every little story or detail about him. And whenever you miss him read it. I became just a 15-year-old kid, but it was an idea. That's a pretty neat idea. Don't let yourself think that your age will invalidate it. I know kids wiser than some adults. Weird thing, but what helps me sleep is imagining that I'm sleeping with a group that's being hunted by insert fantasy creature here. But our party's wizard has created an illusory safety bubble that keeps us warm, comfortable and hidden from our would-be foes. I do the same thing, but I pretend my blanket is protecting me. That's not pretend. Your blanket is protecting you. I'm chilling in my backyard with my dogs when one of those metal suitcases you see in movies lands hard with a partially shredded parachute. The impact is hard enough to break it open, and rubber-banded stacks of non-sequential circulated $100 bills fly out all over the yard. Easily $2 or $3 million worth. There's a die pack with a GPS but it malfunctioned and didn't go off and isn't transmitting. I gather the money and wait. A day. 2 days. 3 days. A week. Nobody ever comes knocking. I keep my day job. I open another bank account across town. Every payday I pull out several $100s from my original account and deposit several $100s into the account across town from the suitcase money. My income doesn't fluctuate, and no large purchases, houses, cars get reported, so I'm completely under the radar. Eventually I've deposited and saved all the money from the case. I continue the practice with my regular paychecks I've kept in cash. Eventually it's all deposited, at which point I retire and live off the accounts. In middle school I would imagine that a portal would tear through my classroom and a group of uniformed mythological people would come out and would urgently request me by name and tell me that they really needed me, and then they would whisk me away to some other world where I was their only hope in some ancient war, just so that everyone around me could wonder why I was so important. Over a decade later I'm writing a webcomic about it. Got about 100 pages out. I'm deleting it now so I can redo it, since now I'm a proper adult and not a broody 15-year-old. Don't get rid of it, always save a copy to see how much of a dumbass you were. Hahaha, I laughed so hard at this. I just showed everyone who knows how much I'm struggling with this comic, and we're all alike flawed. We always joke about how much of a dumbass I am, since all I do is complain about my comic and not write or draw it. Thanks for the laugh. I'm framing this. I'm keeping a copy of my comic for sure, but it's very problematic, so I do have to remove it from the public eye. But it's staying with me. Being cuddled / given affection / comforted and being told nice / reassuring things while I'm feeling shit, lol. I'm not the only one starved for affection. Thank God. A life where I have a GF and we are living together and doing silly things with each other and making jokes, or going to a park or zoo and having conversations with each other. One day, right? Same. I miss falling asleep holding someone, or just talking nonsense, or playing silly games with. It's tough because it's impossible to predict when I'll have it again. You just keep on going about your life, and then one day you meet them. I used to fantasize about winning the lottery to go to sleep. It can be fun. Mainly I think about where I would go on travel, what concerts I would see, how many festivals can I do in a year, etc. As I've gotten older, I recognize that winning the lottery is quite likely to ruin my life instead of elevate it. I'm fairly fortunate in my career, and so I have the privilege to say this. I'm not hungry, my kids get clothes and school, I'm able to pay a mortgage, stuff like that. See, when you start thinking about this stuff, it doesn't help with sleep. So sometimes I think of myself in the world of one of my favorite movies or books. How would I contribute to the events or interact with the characters? Harry Potter is a special favorite. I imagine that I'm a homeless guy trying to sleep on a park bench. It's freezing cold and I only have a ragged, dirty old suit on. I struggle trying to cover my body with newspapers and cardboard to keep warm. Then a kind person delivers me from this freezing hell and places me in my warm bed, where I'm currently, all snuggly. Oh man, this is so effective to make you grateful and comfortable for what you have. No shit, I used to envision that there's global epidemic of some kind and the world has gone to shit, looting and whatnot, the government has collapsed, and I have to be super quiet to avoid the upheaval outside. I got like 60% of that for real in 2020, and it wasn't nearly as cool as my daydream. I imagine I finally have a boyfriend, or better yet, husband, and we are cuddling. I wonder why I had to scroll so far to find imaginary cuddling. I thought everyone did that. Me getting railed by Michael Fassbender. Perfection. I have this whole cute-asy scenario where I pick a random house or room I've been in and redecorate it in my mind to fall asleep, but I think I'm gonna scrap that and go with your thing from here on out. Have him knock on your door while you're decorating and take it from there. I go to the pub and pick up cute boys by talking to them about Lord of the Rings. Then we end up talking about Lotta for hours and I seduce them with my nerdiness. So just go to a nerd convention and this could be real. And then the nerds won't stop asking if they know the name of Frodo's fifth cousin, thrice removed to prove they're a real fan and not someone looking for attention. I imagine paying off all my debts one by one. Once they are all paid I can sleep. Can you imagine paying off my debts as well? I'm suddenly filthy rich and can finally support my family. I'd buy us a house and good health food. If we needed something I could get it. If something broke I could get it fixed. I could donate to charities and support groups. Sometime I also imagine in this world that calories don't count, so I don't have to keep dieting. I miscarried a baby several years ago now. Through resulting complications I lost my ability to have children. I have no idea why, but I just know it was a little girl. Most nights I fall asleep thinking about who she would have become. I'm so sorry. I hope these thoughts bring you comfort at least. So Chick-fil-A has a thing where once a year you dress up as a cow and get free food. So my scenario is that me, my best friend who I don't have yet and the rest of my grade dress up in inflatable cow suits and raid Chick-fil-A for free food during that event. There's also one where the same thing happens, except it's at Olive Garden and everyone is wearing inflatable dinosaur costumes. We seat ourselves and say please and thank you, put our napkins in our laps, push in our chairs, treat everyone with respect etc. My fake scenarios just range between wholesome life and sex. I pretend I'm a potato buried underground. It's so dark down there and the weight of the dirt comforts me. Potatoes have no fears. Potatoes have no anxiety. Sweet dreams, potato. A very weird thing that helps me sleep. I make a story in my mind. Right now it's set in the Walking Dead universe. There's this girl named Rose and this guy named Arthur. Other characters of course, but I tell stories about what they go through. It kinda mirrors my life struggles, but in the land of the dead. Don't judge me. I'm rich and I don't need to wake up at 6:30 in the morning. I'm in the Star Wars universe. Mostly banging Kylo Ren or the Mandalorian, but once in a while I just have cool force powers and lightsaber skills. Guy here, also in the Star Wars universe. Similar situation but different characters lol. Being happy. That's rough buddy. I've won the lottery, and it's a big one. I've secretly collected my winnings. I've bought a big plot of land with lots of beautiful and unique scenery, and I'm building homes for my immediate family and best friend that somehow are technologically advanced and good for the environment, with respect for the environment around us being heavily considered. I find an financial investor I can trust to build my money, take some risks, invest in green businesses and set up trusts for my children, grandchildren and so on. I can now afford to always shop in small businesses, farmers markets, craft shows and mom and pop places. I'm able to invest wisely in dressing conspicuously so that I do things like leave a $100 tip for a cup of coffee. They wonder who I was. Oh, and my family can finally have the dogs, cats, birds, guinea pigs, turtles, fish, and rabbits that they've been asking for. Beach life. Palm tree with warm wines. Not too hot but comfortable. What I imagine a resort in paradise with those solo huts to be like. My parents live on the beach. When I visit them, I sleep with the windows cracked. Warm air, salt smell, palm trees, breeze. Oh man, I sleep the best there. Being a worldwide recognized music artist meeting all the celebrities I always wanted to meet. I usually imagine that I'm going to sleep next to someone I love, despite being intensely single. Of course, I'm not myself in this imaginary scenario, since I'm younger, and more attractive, and more talented, and more interesting. And, of course, this other person is totally imaginary too, and sometimes it's in some kind of sword dance sorcery fantasy world, but not always. Sometimes thinking about it makes me cry because I know I'm too old and too ugly for this to ever happen. But sometimes I can sink into it enough that I'll fall asleep. Not true. Love can happen at any age. You're probably more beautiful than you know. It can happen. I want to give you a big hug. I've never met you, but you're not ugly, and there's no such thing as too old when it comes to finding love. I think about my grandma's house. She passed away 2 years ago after having a stroke that basically paralyzed her from the neck down. She had lived in that condition for 8 years before she died. I think about coming home from school and her giving me milk and cookies while I played Ocarina of Time with the fire roaring. Unlike the video game, I can't go back in time and visit her again, but it's nice to remember. I like to imagine being in a cave in a blizzard, cozy in the cave, while the whipping winds of my ceiling fan circulate oxygen in my blanket den. Me, writing everyone else's ideas down to use later. World domination as king. Meet me at the top of the Burj DJ Khalifa on December 17th, 2029, and we will duel for the power of king. Me in a Britney Spears music video. I just imagine someone is cuddling me. It's sad Ike, and I hope it isn't impossible, but damn shit is looking grim. I have used this technique for years. I win the Powerball and collect the money anonymously. I pay off all my family's mortgages, buy them luxury cars that they find parked in their driveways, establish giant scholarships at my high school and college, buy houses for the families I have mentored over the years, give huge donations to my favorite non-profits, and keep wishing up fun and wonderful surprises on and on till I can sleep. You can't win if you don't play. Night. I play out conversations about the weirdest things with random people, like talking about animal cruelty with the guys who wrote Phineas and Ferb. Apparently it's what PPL who have been through trauma do to process stuff, but I think my brain is just slow. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please subscribe to my channel for more curated daily Reddit stories.